Good evening, I am Marvin Ross in with your VON Major Newsline, Major News Package, year in review for today, Friday 31st, the final day in December and 2018. Presenting this evening's news package alongside me is Jarvis Brown, Tamo Reed, and Tashra Tyson. Today's news feature is a recap of some of the top stories for the year, along with major highlights in regional, international, and sporting news for the calendar year 2018. We'll take a short break, and following that, we will provide you with the details to these stories.
Another look.
Different from how you've seen before.
Another look.
Takes an in-depth look into business, politics, science, technology, religion, and more.
Another look.
Featuring documentaries from the BBC, regional features, and local ones too.
Another look.
Every Monday at 3 p.m. on the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse, Vaughan.
Welcome back, and now we take a look at the major highlights in Welcome back, and now we take a look at the major highlights in crime and policing. Throughout 2018, law enforcement authorities here in St. Kitts and Nevis continued their fight against crime and violence. The calendar year recorded 23 murders, among other incidents such as shooting incidents, robberies, amongst other crimes. A total of 35 firearms were also removed from the communities in the Federation. There were also a number of arrests, charges, and convictions made by law enforcement to bring perpetrators to justice. At the start of the 2018, Commissioner of Police Ian Queally at a police press conference explained that there was a reduction in gun-related crimes in St. Kitts and Nevis for the year 2017.
There were decreases in the number of murders and manslaughter offences in 2017, from 31 in 2016 to 23. And that was down by 26%. There was also a decrease in the number of shooting acts with intent committed 26 in 2016 to 17 in 2017, and that was down by 35%. Attempted murder decreased as well, with 28 being committed in 2017 as compared to 37 in 2016, down by 24%. There was also a significant decrease in cases of wounding with intent with the use of a firearm, and a slight decrease of 2% in both sexually related crimes and break-ins.
Despite this reduction of gun-related incidents in 2017, there were still more crimes recorded in that year when compared to 2016, with 203 or 12% more crimes when compared. 57% or 116 of the 203 crimes recorded were directly related to drug operations and firearms. 19-year-old Cleon Brown of Nevis was the first homicide for 2018. He was shot and killed while walking in the Rollins Village area. This homicide was followed by that of a 45-year-old Shirley Dawn Morton, who was bludgeoned to death in the Hanleys Road home of her boyfriend, Wayne Spire Morton, that is Wayne Spire Chapman, on Sunday 21st January 2018. He has since been charged for Morton's murder. Morton's death was also the second homicide for 2018 here in the Federation. The Finch sisters were the second and third women to be murdered for 2018. 21-year-old member of the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Defense Force, Jamila Finch, and her sister, 18-year-old Naomi Finch, who were killed by 34-year-old Orvis Poxon of Keys Village. Poxon, who turned himself over to law enforcement authorities, has since been charged with 2 counts and is on remand at Her Majesty's Prison on St. Kitts. The crime situation has reached such a stage that even officers of the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force are becoming victims of these heinous acts. On May 6th, 37-year-old Sergeant Dwight Davis was killed at the Bay St. Kitts. Commissioner of Police Ian Queally, at the time of Davis's murder, explained that the force will bring the perpetrator to justice.
Let me make it very clear that an attack on one police officer is an attack on the entire organization and, by extension, the state. As mentioned previously in a statement that the force issued, the men and women of the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force place their lives on the line daily. They have committed themselves to keeping the public safe, and the risks they face are unlike that of any other profession. As they serve and protect others, the police force will not tolerate any act of violence against them. We are determined to ensure that the matter involving Sergeant Davis is addressed swiftly, and in so doing, no stone will be left unturned. This organization will use all available resources at its disposal to find the perpetrator or perpetrators of this crime and bring them to justice.
On Friday, 18th May, a juvenile was charged for Davis's murder. 3 months later, 44-year-old Sergeant Leon Dacent Powell became the Federation's 18th murder victim when armed masked men attempted to rob his bar. A struggle ensued and he was shot several times. 37-year-old Vincent Taylor, who resided in both McKnight and Sandy Point and wanted in questioning with the death of Powell, was shot and killed in a shootout with police on Friday, 31st August. The most recent shooting of a police officer here in St. Kitts and Nevis is that of Corporal Cleon Michael, who was shot on Christmas Day while trying to prevent an armed robbery. Speaking in the Nevis Island Assembly on Friday, 28th December, Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Mark Brantley, explained that the government will not stand for these senseless acts of violence.
This government has had a very serious approach to crime and the fight against crime. But also, Mr. President, whenever it is that those who are bent on criminality seek to attack the members of the Royal St. Kitts and Nevis Police Force, the members of law enforcement and our security forces, we must condemn in especially harsh terms those efforts in that regard. I have myself attended the hospital to see Corporal Michael. He appears to be in good spirits, and it doesn't appear that the wound is life-threatening. I have also been in close contact with the High Command here in Nevis and commend them on their quick work, because I'm told that they have certain suspects.
The most recent is the most recent homicide here in St. Kitts and Nevis is that of 35-year-old Elroy Stanley Williams of Crab Hill Sandy Point, who was shot and killed sometime after 12 noon on Saturday, 6th October 2018. The crime situation prompted the Dr. Timothy Harris-led Team Unity government to seek the assistance of the Regional Security System, RSS, to combat heightened criminal activity. Prime Minister Harris, in an address to the nation on October 6th, explained that no stone will be left unturned when it comes to the criminal elements that threaten to derail the country's advancement, human development, and economic progress.
The RSS forces began arriving in the Federation on Wednesday the 10th, 2018, and will continue to arrive into St. Kitts and Nevis in sufficient numbers to assist our ongoing efforts at ensuring citizens' security and safety. RSS members are already deployed throughout the communities with local national security personnel, and their presence will help local law enforcement to expand the extent of their coverage of the country.
According to Dr. Harris, some 35 soldiers and police officers from the RSS were sworn in on October 14th, and they will remain in the Federation as long as possible until the security forces advise that their presence is no longer required.
The government asks for the fullest understanding and cooperation of the general public in their engagement with the RSS members and indeed the members of the local security forces. Public safety and security are my government's highest priorities, and no stone shall be left unturned and no effort or expense spared in ensuring that all Kittitians and divisions and all who call St. Kitts and Nevis home are safe and secure.
And on November 15th, 5 prisoners were pardoned and released from Her Majesty's prison by His Excellency the Governor General Sir S.W. Tapley Seaton. The 5 men are Mr. Ronald Brown, Mr. Maurice Weeks, Mr. Vaughn Sweeney, Mr. Wendell Ward, and Mr. Melvin Lewis. A condition was also imposed on these individuals upon their release, and that if should there be any infraction of the law, they would be again incarcerated to serve the rest of the time they had been originally sentenced to. And in other policing news, 2 students of the Medical University of the Americas MUA here on Nevis were injured following an explosion at the dormitory on Wednesday, 3rd October at about 9 p.m. Acting Commissioner of Police, Mr. Hilary Brandy, on November 15th provided this update on the cause of the explosion.
The fire was caused by an explosion due to propane gas that filled the room. There was a leak coming from the gas stove. The stove was inside. It's a single bedroom apartment. So the stove was inside the kitchen. And the knob, one of the knob, was malfunctioned. And the propane gas leak unknown to the occupant. Just one person, a female, was occupying the room at the time. And one of her friends came over the night to study when she went to light a cigarette. So when the explosion took place.
That is Acting Commissioner of Police, Mr. Hilary Brandy. And Customs Officer Lisa Francis of the Immigration Department was slapped with a number of cannabis charges and for subverting the course of justice. The charges stemmed after a search of her home resulted in the find of a large quantity of marijuana and also in the aiding of one of her sons, Xavier Corey Francis, to leave the country while he was on bail for a gun-related offense. Customs Officer and brothers Tivon and Travon Bryant were charged with a combined 22 charges from both Customs and Police on the drug, gun and ammunition find at the Vance Amri International Airport on Thursday, 14th June. And the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force and Her Majesty's Customs and Excise confiscated, that is, 1 .357 caliber revolver with ammunition inside the DVD player, while several packages of a substance suspected to be cocaine were concealed in what appeared to be a coloring set. And Commissioner of Police Ian Creeley was appointed President of the Association of Caribbean Commissioners of Police, ACCP, while he attended the April 30th to May 4th 33rd Annual Association of Caribbean Commissioners of Police Conference in Montego Bay, Jamaica. And meanwhile, Deputy Commissioner of Police Hilary Brandy was invested with the full powers of the Commissioner of Police Force on a temporary basis to ensure the public safety public safety operations continued seamlessly. The announcement was made by Prime Minister Harris on October 4th. The appointment was made in the absence of Commissioner of Police Ian Creeley, who is on vacation. And Major Anthony Comrie replaced Colonel Patrick Wallace as head of the St. Kitts and Nevis Defense Force on February 28th. This was the second time a change of command was witnessed since the re-establishment of the force in 1997. Meanwhile, former Deputy Chief of the St. Kitts and Nevis Fire and Rescue Services, Mr. Abdias Samuel, was named as the new head of the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, on Monday, 2nd July. Also, Merceling Hughes, former Assistant Commissioner of Police, was appointed to the position of Chief of Immigration as of July 2nd, and following the commissioning of a new forensic lab in April, Mrs. Latoya Lake Marshall, who hails from Antigua and Barbuda, was appointed Forensic Director of the lab in December. And that concludes the major highlights in crime and policing news. On to the latest, that is the highlights in government business. The Parliament here in St. Kitts and Nevis had much activity. In the National Assembly, controversy continued to brew over former Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. the Honorable Denzil Douglas, being the holder of a Dominican diplomatic passport. On January 22nd, the Office of Attorney General filed a case against Dr. Douglas, seeking the court's declaration on his eligibility to be a part of the parliamentary process as an elected member of the National Assembly.
Having had advice from Senior Counsel on this matter, the Office of the Attorney General gave instructions to institute legal proceedings in this matter. And so, yesterday, on the 22nd of January, a fixed date claim form was filed in the High Court Registry to initiate a matter to get the court to make certain declarations and findings.
Following the third hearing of the case, Dr. Douglas, following the third hearing of the case against Dr. Douglas, questions arose to the length of the matter. This was the Attorney General's response.
We cannot tell the court how to function. The matter is in the court, and until the court makes a determination, we have to abide by the rule of law in our country, as we always do. And so until the court make a determination one way or the other, the status quo remains. And we would expect the court to act expeditiously, as they do in constitutional matters of this nature. And we would expect His Lordship to schedule a hearing as early as his schedule allows.
And a civil suit brought against Dr. Douglas by one of his constituents, Cuthbert Big Chief Mills of Newton Ground, over Dr. Douglas's possession of a diplomatic passport of Dominica, was thrown out of the court, and Mills was ordered to pay costs to Dr. Douglas. And as at December 2018, Attorney General Byron has asked the court for an adjournment and indicated that he wanted to proceed, that is to produce expert evidence on Dominican law, which was later withdrawn. But in July, Justice Ward ruled that the Attorney General must produce expert evidence on the matter. A hearing is yet to be set. And the first female clerk was appointed to the National Assembly. Former Deputy Clerk of the Assembly, Mrs. Sonia Body Thompson, was promoted to the post of clerk in May, which took effect from November 1st, 2017. The promotion made her the youngest clerk of Parliament in the Caribbean, the Americas, and the Atlantic Region branch of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. And the Dr. Denzil Douglas filed a motion of no confidence against the Prime Minister, Dr. Timothy Harris, and his team unity government on Wednesday, 12 December 2018. Dr. Douglas explained why his party had taken the decision to file the motion.
We in the parliamentary opposition are very dismayed and concerned about the levels of corruption, conflicts of interest, victimization, and nepotism that have become the hallmarks of the present administration led by Dr. Timothy Harris. There is a complete lack of transparency, accountability, and the rule of law in our justice, financial, and public administration systems.
The motion, which was heard on Monday, 24 December and lasted over 4 hours, was defeated. In the closing years of the Labour administration, Dr. Douglas did not allow a similar motion from the then opposition to be heard. And that concludes the major highlights in government business. Now on to the major highlights in politics. The political arena has also been a bustling one for 2018, with numerous activities happening among the various political groupings. The 2018 calendar year, as at January 1st, commenced here at Nevis with the newly elected Premier, the Honorable Mark Brantley, calling for a One Nevis campaign in his New Year message.
Regardless of our place of birth, we are one Nevis. Regardless of our skin color, we are one Nevis. Regardless of our race, we are one Nevis. Regardless of our religious beliefs, we are one Nevis. And regardless of our political persuasion, we are one Nevis.
Also at the start of the year, the then leader of the Nevis Reformation Party, the Honorable Joseph Parry, in his New Year message, congratulated Premier Brantley on his party's recent election victory.
I want to congratulate the Concerned Citizens Movement and Mr. Brantley for their victory. And I want to say to him, be humble in victory. I myself have always embraced humility, and I have understood that I'm a servant of the people, and when the time comes to move aside, I must move aside with a smile.
Mr. Parry at that point also announced that he would be retiring as leader of the Nevis Reformation Party.
My intention over the next few weeks is to step down as leader of the Nevis Reformation Party. It is important that I give that party the opportunity to organize the transition period so that we can have a smooth movement from the present situation to one that will strengthen the party for the future.
This announcement by Mr. Parry did come to pass on Sunday, 21st October 2018, when the Nevis Reformation Party held its convention to elect the new leader. Mr. Roberto Hector was elected as the party's leader from a field of 2 candidates, the other Dr. Kelvin Daly, who was elected as the party's first vice president.
We are at this point we're having the convention, but yes, there would have been a lot of work that was put into the party. We have a strategic plan, we have a brand new constitution, and we are moving forward. Our first order of business is to interact with our supporters, interact with the voters, and make sure that we are clear in our minds as to what are the issues that they are facing. And those are the issues that we will be campaigning on.
Following the election, there were rumors circulating the day that Dr. Daly was stepping down from the position, that is from his post as a vice president of the party. Dr. Daly denied the allegations leveled against him when he was contacted by the VON Newsline.
The news to me, if you're telling me people are saying it, I don't know where to get it from. There are people who are going to be looking to a woman like that, that people thrive and things like that. So I can't control what people write or what people say. But I was elected last night. As far as I'm concerned, I'm still the vice president.
And debates continued on whether overseas nationals should be allowed to vote in local and federal elections. The Team Unity government on March 28th tabled and read for a first time the National Assembly Elections Amendment Bill 2017. The act will impose a residency requirement for a national to be eligible to be registered as a voter. 2 months following this, the federal government defended proposed changes to the electoral system.
This government do not discriminate against our citizens. The law is the law for national registering and voting, whether they live in New York or passing ground. The mere act of citizenship is not of and by itself a sufficient qualification to vote. That is why in the application of the laws, some persons, although they are citizens, are not entitled to vote. We have to make the clear distinction between citizenship and right to vote. They may be interrelated at times. They are different concepts. So the mere fact that you are a citizen does not, of and by itself, means that you are entitled to vote.
And a new political party was launched here in Nevis on Tuesday, 20th November 2018 on Von Radio's Let's Talk That Gets Results program. The People's Democratic Party, PDA, being launched now, adds to the fray, making it 3 political parties expected to contest in the next general elections. The founding members are Mr. Glendale Herbert, Mr. Andy Liburd, and Mr. Patterson Fleming. According to Mr. Liburd, they are not a political party.
We are not a political party, but we are what you call a democratic alliance. We will be working with the people, for the people. This country will be run with consultation with the people, and everything we do would be with the people. And we want the people to understand that we are not here looking for a salary. We are here because we recognize that you have been suffering for a number of years. We decided not just to get into politics, but to develop a plan, look at different models that is out there and successful country, and that is what we are presenting to you.
Following this launch, there were a number of reactions from the general public. Leaders of the 2 political parties here in Nevis were part of these reactions. Mr. Roberto Hector of the Nevis Reformation Party, NRP, gave this response to claims that they, the founding members of the PDA, were members of the NRP.
I am not sure what is being said there, that the idea that is given that they are breakaway or offshoots of the Nevis Reformation Party. I am not certain about that, but if it is that is the case, we offer the hand of friendship, and we would want to work with those who might have become disgruntled for whatever reason in order to champion the high qualities that our party offers.
The Honorable Mark Brantley, Premier of Nevis and leader of the Concerned Citizen Movement, CCM, openly welcomed any political party to run for the elections, also had speculations about this new party.
We welcome participants in the political process. But frankly, when we look at the membership, I don't think the people of Nevis will be fooled. I think this is now old NRP and new NRP. It is clearly two sides to the same coin, and I believe that people will see it for what it is. When we look at the membership, we know where they have always stood in the past, and we expect that that is where they stand now. So I continue to say, as the leader of our party, to our members, to not listen to all the noise that is around us, but to continue to focus on what is important, and to continue to stick and stay with a party that has meant so much to them and to our island and to our development over all these years. I will continue to monitor, and we will see. But I want our supporters and our people to remain vigilant and to look at this for what it is, as I say, a manifestation of the dysfunction that has now infected and affected the Nevis Reformation Party.
PDA member Mr. Glendale Herbert had this to say following the Premier's comment about his alliance.
We, the PDA, knows that the Premier is a very intelligent man, highly intelligent man, and we respect him tremendously. And we also respect his intellect. And he himself would have known that every party in Nevis, whether it's the party he represents and is filled, I would dare say almost two-thirds of the party followers are filled with people who came from the NRP, whether they left 30 years ago, 5 years ago, 1 year ago, or last month. And anyone who has left the oldest party in the country in most recent times would just be on the same bandwagon as the Premier has been. And that was his home at one point.
That is Mr. Glendale Herbert. And finally, a new Deputy Governor General in the person of Mrs. Hyleta Miranda Labrad, MOH, was sworn in here on Nevis. Mrs. Labrad, whose appointment took effect on September 1st, spoke to a packed Charlestown High Court House after taking the oath of office.
Your Excellency, Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Premier, and your Cabinet, thank you for this distinct honor and the opportunity to serve in this new capacity. With God's help, wisdom, and grace, and according to His will, I endeavor to meet your expectations and serve my people, the people of Nevis and St. Kitts, with pleasure and distinction.
She replaced Mrs. Marjorie Morton, who held the position from September 1st, 2017. And that concludes a recap of crime and policing, government business, and politics for 2018. Jarvis Brown will bring you the top stories in finance and culture for 2018 after this break.
Welcome back on to the finance. St. Kitts and Nevis paid off an old debt to the International Monetary Fund IMF contracted by the former St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party-led administration. That announcement was made by Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris in his New Year's address on January 1st, 2018.
a whopping $117 million of the $225 million debt contracted by the former regime with the IMF, signaling that never again will our finances be recklessly managed to cause an 85% increase in electricity tariffs, a 600% hike in water rates, a 3-year wage freeze for our civil servants, default on our sovereign debt, and haircuts imposed even on our churches.
The Team Unity government announced in July that it would be rolling out a poverty alleviation or social assistance program here in St. Kitts and Nevis. This was announced by Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, in July of this year. The aim of the program was to provide households earning less than $3,000 with an additional $500 EC. Following registration processes both in St. Kitts and Nevis and months of delay, the first set of monies were paid out to qualified households on Monday, 24th December, following ceremonies on both islands. Initial payments were done via checks. However, subsequent payments will be applied to debit cards provided by the government through a partnership with the Caribbean Credit Corporation, CCC. In his budget address in February of this year, Premier of Nevis and Minister of Finance in the NIA announced that residents of Nevis would be paying more for a number of services offered.
During this fiscal year, my government will implement a 30% increase in the water rates for all users across all sectors. This 30% increase was recommended by the CDB and approved by the former administration at the start of the water enhancement project, but was never implemented. We will also conduct a review of the rates charged across the health sector, including those currently charged for the disposal of garbage at the landfill. In addition, working with the federal government, we will seek to conduct a complete review of fees and charges in relation to the operations of vehicular traffic on our roads. This adjustment in fees is merely to bring them in line with the increasing cost of maintaining our road network. We will also seek to implement greater measures to improve our collection of property taxes and expedite the registration of newly constructed property to the tax roll.
Meanwhile, in presenting the 2019 budget on December 5th, there was an increase of just under $43 million over the 2018 budget. The Team Unity administration announced on Thursday, December 6th, that public sector workers will be receiving a third consecutive double salary. The announcement was made by Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris.
The Cabinet of Ministers, of which I have the privilege of being the chairman, has considered and determined, based on the excellent assessment of our fiscal health, that government employees will receive, for a third year in a row, a double salary on December 14th.
And the Federal Integrity Commission was officially commissioned on Monday, 27th August 2018. Instruments of appointments were handed over to commission members, Chairman Mr. Damien Kelsick, Mr. Franklin Maitland, and Mrs. Carol Boddy. Subsequent to receiving his instruments, Mr. Maitland retired from the post, and Mr. Dennis Knight, on recommendation by Prime Minister Harris, was sworn in as the new member of the commission. Nevis's Integrity Commission was named on June 25, 2018, with its members being Mr. Ricardo Keynes, Chairman, Mr. Sidney Newton, and Mr. Alfred Tyrrell. This commissioning came 5 years after the Integrity in Public Life Act was passed in the National Assembly on September 9, 2013, and in Nevis in September 2013. And that brings us to the end of our finance sector. We now go on to culture. Culturama 44, which had as its theme Fet, Food and Folklore Culturama 44, saw a number of events taking place, but there were also downtimes during the festivity. For the first time in the history of the festival and the senior Kaiser competition, that the Secretariat was taken to court by a Calypsonian for what he said was an injustice. Badman Pollock challenged the decision of the Calypso subcommittee to include 2 Calypsonians in the persons of Popa Wheeler and Suki as finalists for the August 5th show. Polo won the injunction case he filed against the chairman of the Kaiso subcommittee, Mr. Keith Glasgow, and the Culturama committee and heard at the Basta High Court on Saturday, 4th August 2018. The court instructed that Polo be included in the final and would sing at number 11. Two other calypsonians were Baker and Lady Smooth. They were also included on the advice of the Minister of Culture, making it 12 finalists plus the reigning monarch. On the evening of the competition, Keith Dissendat Scarborough was crowned senior monarch, while Oscar King Astro was first runner-up, and newcomer to the senior Kaiser finals, Shomari Suki Mitchell, was second runner-up. Other winners for the Culturama 44 festivities were King Invincible, who repeated as Junior Kaiser Monarch, Tishawn Newton and Mackelsie Arthurton of the Charleston Primary School, and sponsored by the Bank of Nevis, won the Mr. and Miss Talented Youth Pageant. Ramisha Malone is Miss Culture Swimwear 2018, and Mr. Ranciato Jeffers was crowned Mr. Cool 2018. Delhi Ranks won the Power segment, while Speedy won the Groovy segment in the Groovy and Power Soca Monarch finals, and Miss Neela Jones was the Miss Culture Queen 2018. In the street events, the Core Band won Road March, while the Odyssey Band placed second. The Island Tries, preparing for the Storm Troop, won the Cultural Street Parade. There was also an increase in ticket sales and gate receipts for Culturama 44 street activities. The tally total, some $210,079, an increase of 18% over 2017, was disclosed by Minister of Culture here on Nevis, the Honorable Eric Evelyn, at a press conference held at the Culturama Committee following the festivities on September 6, 2018. The Ministry of Culture began preparations for Culturama 45 with the launch of the slogan competition in September of this year. And that concludes a recap of the top stories in finance and culture for 2018. When we come back, Tamari will present the major happenings at Von Radio, the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse, in health after this break.
Welcome back, and now the major highlights at Von Radio, the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse, and in health. As we move through 2018, Von Radio 860 AM, the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse, continued to make sterling contributions to its listeners locally, regionally, and internationally. On June 18th, the station celebrated its 30th anniversary. On the momentous occasion, a number of individuals congratulated the station on reaching this milestone. One of these individuals is Premier of Nevis and host of On the Mark program, the Honorable Mark Brantley.
I extend heartiest congratulations to Von, to its ownership, to its manager, Weber Herbert, who's been there all these years guiding that ship, to all the workers, past and present, who have made Von Radio what it is, a truly iconic Nevision institution. Happy birthday, Von.
Former staff member of Von Radio and Minister of Culture, Honorable Eric Evelyn, also added his voice to the mix.
I think apart from where I've been the longest serving member of the team, and I have to tell you that, Marvin, that it has been an exceptional experience here at the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse. On a personal note, Von Radio has done so much for me in terms of my personal development, and I have to say a very hearty thank you to Mr. Everett Weber Herbert for giving me that opportunity, giving me that chance from way back when to be a part of the team here at Von Radio. And as I said, it has been a great experience working with the team. I enjoyed every minute, every second, every hour working here at the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse. And I think it has always been a team effort, and now it continues to be a team effort. And it has been an awesome experience.
As part of the celebrations, General Manager of Von Radio, Mr. Everett Weber Herbert, announced that a number of organizations earned the Manager's Award.
We have the Facts for Life, and that's done by the Seventh-day Adventist Church. We have the Highways and Hedges broadcast. That's Pastor Peter Paul and his team. We have the Kindling Hearts program. That's done by the Methodist Church. We have the Voice of Truth broadcast. That's Sister Londi and her team. The Voice of Hope broadcast. That's at 5 o'clock on Sundays. and that's Pastor Jones of the Libert Hill area and his team. And we have the Shiloh Worship Hour, Pastor Eric Maynard and his folks at the Shiloh Baptist Church there in Ramsbury.
A number of individuals were also a part of that list.
Mr. Brantley is now graduated to be our Honorable Premier, but he has not left us. He, as you know, he came in on the Let's Talk program as a young, fiery, energetic fellow, and he has branched out and he does his own program now on Wednesdays. So he gets into that circle as well. And then on the basically everyday basis, we've got the Honorable Eric Evelyn. It seems as if we produce a lot of honorables here. And according to the information reaching my desk, I think in terms of the everyday people, Mr. Honorable Eric Evelyn has been by my side the most every time I look around. Almost. So he is almost 2 times 15. So he is in that circle, gets in.
1 month later, on September 23rd, Von Radio marked the first anniversary of the passing of its founder, Mr. Merritt Herbert. The following is the message for Mr. Herbert on Von Radio's 29th anniversary.
We would like to reach out to our schools in the territory, the schools in Nevis, especially in St. Kitts Nevis, and we wish them that they will step up. The reading is one of the most prominent subjects in school, and we wish the children would take on a lot of reading. It's very important wherever you travel throughout the world. You have to do a lot of reading and math. So the children must get into broadcasting. It's very important. The older ones will move out and the younger ones have to come in. So we wish them all the very best. And again, all the children, they'll soon be having summer break, and we wish them well and make sure that they do a lot of reading.
Mr. Herbert's vision came to reality on June 18, 1988, when the sounds of Von Radio were heard over the airwaves on the 895 AM dial. Von Radio also brought some Christmas cheer to the children on Nevis by the hosting of a Christmas party on Monday, 24th December. The initiative was the brainchild of manager of Von Radio, Mr. Everett Weber Herbert.
This is the playground for 2018, and we're having a Christmas party for the kids on Christmas Eve right here on Von Radio, and it starts at 2 p.m. so get the kids here on time, because we have organized to get Santa Claus, the real one, here, and he has to move on to other places, to other islands, right? Bookings are tight, so you make sure that you're here. Parents, come along with the kids, spend about an hour or two, help us to look after them. So make sure that all of us contribute, make sure that the kids have a wonderful time for Christmas.
The party saw a number of children receiving gifts for the Christmas season. Moving on now into health, the medical field also had its developments throughout the year. Construction work on the $19 million Alexandra Hospital expansion project began in May of this year. There were a few setbacks throughout the year with the project, but in a recent sitting of the Nevis Island Assembly on October 4, 2018, Honorable Hazel Brandy Williams, Junior Minister with responsibility for health, expressed that the NIA is satisfied with the work that is being done and added that they are indeed comfortable that the work is going according to plan and it is right on target. 3 more hemodialysis machines were added to the dialysis unit at the Joseph N. France General Hospital. The machines were donated by the government of the Republic of China, Taiwan on November 27, 2018. And a new awareness campaign was launched here in St. Kitts and Nevis in August by the Fit Wellness Center to combat non-communicable diseases. Here is manager of the center, Mr. David Walwyn.
We just want to do a few things that's going to impact and at least combat the rise of these non-communicable diseases, because it affects us all. And you can't close your eyes to it, no matter who you are, whether you're an employee have employees that are out sick because of some illness, or whether it's a family member or a friend. You can't be blind to it. It affects us all. And so we have to make a commitment to do something about it.
He, at the time, further explained how they plan to get the public involved in the campaign at one of their Fit Games Fittest of the Fit event.
One of the things that we are going to be laying out at this event as well is how everyone can get involved in making this NCD prevention plan sustainable. And so one of the things that we want to lay out at the event is a national weight loss campaign. And everyone who signs up for this campaign, you have to be in it to win it, will win a prize. And so anyone who contribute the most weight to this campaign, so your weight loss is going to get you some money. So every pound gets you some money. And so those of you who contribute the most weight to this campaign win a big cash prize.
And as at October 31st, 2018, Minister of State with responsibility for health announced that there were some 295 persons living with HIV in St. Kitts and Nevis. According to Minister Phipps, of that number, 35 experienced viral overload. The number of new cases increased in 2018. About 46% of the new cases of HIV occurred in the 20 to 29-year-old demographic. That is 6 new cases with a total of 17 HIV deaths between 2016 to October 2018, which reflects 6 deaths per year. Meanwhile, consultations began here in St. Kitts and Nevis in November for a universal health insurance coverage plan. According to the Commission, the consultations are an opportunity for all citizens and residents to have a say in customizing their future medical plan. Speaking on the On the Mark program, one of the members of the National Commission, Mrs. Nicole Slack-Liebert, stated how they are going about in determining how the package will be set up.
We continuously do data collection, of course, through our health information unit, but we've also done some additional assessment to see our disease profile to determine what will be the contents of the package. So, for example, you spoke extensively about non-communicable diseases, which are our greatest burden of disease, and 80% that you refer to regionally is actually our situation here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So the diabetes, where about 20% of our population is affected, hypertension, about 35% of our population, the cancers and so on, of course, those are concerns, and those will be covered in terms of treatment. And also, of course, as I mentioned earlier, our health promotion initiatives also have to be heightened in this regard. We're also looking at issues, for example, such as mental health, which are also a concern for our population.
Dr. Cardell Rollins, who is also a member of the Commission, also explained dependents will also be able to benefit from the package.
You who are working and paying into the system, your dependents will be covered. So whether you have children, a dependent wife who doesn't work, you may even have a parent who is retired and living with you that you're caring for, they would also be covered.
That concludes the 2018 recap of the major highlights in happenings at Von Radio, the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse, and in health. Ms. Tashon Tyson will bring to you the major stories in education, tourism, and the hurricane season for 2018 after this break.
Welcome back. Another major highlights in education. In March, Nevis retained the Leeward Islands debating title held in Anguilla for the second straight year. They beat St. Martin 651 to 558 points. Kejel Smithen was adjudged the best speaker of the finals, while Roger Williams was adjudged the overall best speaker of the competition. Both individuals represented Nevis. And the Nevis Sixth Form College capped the 3 top spots in the 2018 CAPE exam results. The 3 were Walter Williams with 4 grade 1s, 9 grade 2s, and 1 grade 3. Vanicia Libert with 5 grade 1s and 1 grade 2, and Tarana Kaka with 5 grade 1s. Also, 11 students from St. Kitts and Nevis were a part of the top 10 on the regional merit list for the 2018 May-June CXC examinations, 3 for CSEC and 8 for CAPE. Meanwhile, Cale Thomas of the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College, CFBC, was named the 2018 National State Color for St. Kitts and Nevis. He received a scholarship for the undergraduate studies for up to 4 years in the amount of $25,000 per annum. Runner-up state scholar Roger Williams received a scholarship for similar duration but in the amount of $14,000. And an autism center was opened here in St. Kitts and Nevis on Tuesday, 4th September, so that children affected and their families could receive enhanced care and resources. The St. Kitts Spectrum Services Center, located at the industrial site preschool, will provide screenings and early diagnostic services to children and their families. Finally, in education. Here on Nevis, a new Principal Education Officer, PEO, in the person of Miss Zanella Claxton, former Director of Youth and Sports, was appointed to the post. Miss Claxton was congratulated by Premier Brantley on Tuesday, 2nd October, who expressed that she was an excellent choice.
Has a wide experience in education, both at the level of early childhood to adult education. She holds a master's degree in adult education from Texas A&M in Texarkana, Texas, and she's been deeply involved in education in the United States. I think she's an excellent choice, someone with the necessary skill set, the necessary training. I want to congratulate Ms. Claxton on her elevation to this role as Principal Education Officer, and we thank Minister Troy Libert, who leads the Ministry of Education day to day, and his able and prominent secretary, Mr. Barrett, for this choice.
He also congratulated former PEO Mrs. Palsy Wilkin for her time at the post.
Mrs. Wilkin, as we know, toiled in the vineyards of education for some 44 years. When she had retired and taken her well-deserved rest, we call on her yet again. And it is instructive that based on what I gather, she served for 12 years as an education officer, and then for 5 years as a principal education officer. Long after she should have been retired and relaxing, we called on her and she came and she gave of her service. And we have to congratulate and thank her. There are no words really that I can express to demonstrate the depth of gratitude for her contribution to education.
And now the major highlights in tourism. The Four Seasons Resort will be closing its doors in mid-2019 to undertake refurbishment work on the hotel. The announcement was made by Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Mark Brantley, during the 2019 budget address. The hotel will be closed for a period of 4 months and is expected to affect some 400 workers. He said that those workers will be paid 25% of their salary during that period. St. Kitts marked the first time in its history of having 1 million passengers for a cruise season. This achievement gave the island marquee post status. The feat was achieved on July 16th with the arrival of Royal Caribbean International's Freedom of the Sea to Port Zante. Symphony of the Seas, the largest cruise ship in the world, owned and operated by Royal Caribbean International, docked in St. Kitts on Tuesday, 11th December at Port Zante. This marked a historic occasion as it was the first time in history that the Federation had 2 inaugural visits, the Norwegian Jade and the MS Symphony of the Seas. And finally, the 2018 Atlantic hurricane season was the third in a consecutive series of damaging Atlantic hurricane seasons featuring 15 named storms, 8 hurricanes and 2 major hurricanes, as well as a total of $33.3 billion in damage. The season officially began on Friday, June 1st and ended on Friday, November 30th. The VON Newsline spoke with the Director of Nevis Disaster Management Department, NDMD, Brian Dyer, about this season.
The hurricane season turned out to be an above average year, even though the Category 5 hurricanes did not materialize as in 2017. There were a number of factors that affected the hurricane activity for 2018. On record, 2017 was the hottest year on record with regards to temperatures being recorded, and that resulted in the extremely active hurricane season. With regards to 2018, the temperatures in the Atlantic took a long time to get above the 26.5 degrees Celsius that is required for hurricane formation. And also the latter part of the season, the El Nino phenomena started developing, so that affected some of the activity in the Atlantic. However, the number of storms that resulted at the end of the hurricane season show that we had a slightly above average year.
Mr. Brian Dyer. That's a recap of the major stories in education, tourism, and the hurricane season. Back over to Jarvis Brown to bring you more highlights in culture.
Welcome back, and here are some more highlights regarding culture. Further to certain developments in May of this year, the Nevis Culturama Committee paid tribute to fallen cultural icon David de Maistre Freeman, who passed away on Saturday, 26 May 2018 at the age of 98 years. Following the Culturama festivities, St. Kitts and Nevis celebrated its 35th independence celebrations on September 19, 2018. A number of activities were organized by the governments both on St. Kitts and Nevis for the observance. The theme to mark the celebrations was Love, Service, Patriotism and Pride, Independence 35. Activities included the Prime Minister's lecture, the unveiling of statues at the National Heroes Park, independence debates which saw the Charleston Secondary School emerging winners of both debates, independence parades which saw a contingent from the Republic of China, Taiwan coming to participate in the activities. A number of individuals received awards during that period for their dedication of service to St. Kitts and Nevis. 16 individuals were awarded national honors on National Heroes Day, which is observed annually on September 16th. 10 awarded the Star of Merit for their contributions to national development, and 6 were awarded the Medal of Honor. 9 individuals received awards in 7 areas of development here on Nevis. Also, during that period, the Nevis Island administration saw it fit to honor Nevision-born Steel Pulse drummer Steve Grizzly Nisbet, who passed away at the age of 69 in January of this year. A free independence reggae concert was held at the Cultural Village on Independence Eve, of which the Steel Pulse band was a part. An independence concert was also held on St. Kitts at the Warner Park on that same evening. The results of the 2018 Sugar Mass 47 Carnival festivities held on St. Kitts are as follows. Lucas H.E. was crowned Sugar Mass 47 Soca Monarch. Avanya Richards of the Keon High School won the 2018-2019 National Talented Teen Competition. Queen Independent repeated as Senior Calypso Monarch. Miss Scaspa Tawana Collins was crowned the National Carnival Queen. Small X Band received Road March. Tiana Sweetie Warner is the Junior Calypso Queen, and Terran Invincible Webb won the Teenage Junior Calypso competition. And that brings us to the end of our highlights in culture of this year. When we come back, we'll bring you the latest in our segments regarding regional, international, and sports happenings.
That's right, it's that time of the year once again, where your bank, the Bank of Nevis Limited, is offering very low interest rate on brand new vehicles. But that's not all. We are offering a discounted bill of sale, and your insurance payment will be covered. So visit us today or just dial 869-469-5564 and speak to our very experienced lenders. My bank, your bank, our bank. The Bank of Nevis Limited, improving the quality of life. Like us on Facebook.
If you wanna go and take a ride with me, we be willing in the four with the cozies. Oh, why do I live this way? Must be the money.
Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back, and these are the 2018 highlights in news from across the region. First, we had from Trinidad. Just 11 days into 2018, the murder count in Trinidad and Tobago stood at 21, with the murder of a 14-year-old high school student, Joshua Andrews. He was shot and killed in an apparent ambush while he sat inside a taxicab. The murder count in Trinidad, according to ttcrime.com, recorded 494 murders for 2017, 463 in 2016, and 410 in 2015, which clearly indicates a stark increase over the past 3 years. We now go on to Grenada. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell led his new national party NNP to an historic clean sweep of all 15 seats in a general election held on Tuesday, March 13th, making it the third time he has achieved the feat in electoral politics in Grenada. The 71-year-old Mitchell, who led the NNP to a consecutive sweep following his 2013 victory, immediately called on the leadership of the main opposition, National Democratic Congress, to be part of the social partners that would have charted the way forward for the Tri-Island state. In Antigua, Prime Minister Gaston Brown led his Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party, ABLP, to a resounding win in the general elections on Wednesday, March 21st. After an often controversial campaign, the ABLP emerged victorious and won 15 of the 17 seats. According to the Antigua Observer, it was a 15-1-1 win for ABLP, United Progressive Party UPP, and Barbuda People's Movement BPM respectively. Out of Barbados, leader of the Barbados Labour Party BLP Mia Mottley became the nation's first female prime minister after the party's victory in the general elections. Motley's BLP won a clean sweep of the 30 seats up for grabs, becoming the first party in Barbados ever to do so, and putting the 52-year-old veteran politician, Mr. Fuenda Stewart, that's actually putting her rather in the history books. Meantime, a somber former Prime Minister Fuenda Stewart took full responsibility for his Democratic Labour Party's DLP unprecedented defeat at the polls and announced his retirement from elective politics. However, he believes the party, which he unsuccessfully led into an attempt at a third consecutive term in office, would eventually bounce back. In Jamaica, a female police officer who was hailed a hero after shooting a man whom she said tried to steal her car 9 months ago was charged with the murder of that man. Constable Melissa White appeared in court on Tuesday, March 20th, hours after being charged with the June 6, 2017 murder of Edward George Brown, and was released on a Jamaican $500,000 bail. She returned to court on April 27, 2018. When Brown was shot last day, it was reported that White had stopped at a traffic light when two men, one armed with a rifle and another with a pistol, attempted to steal her car. She said she challenged the gunman and one of them, Brown, was shot and injured. He subsequently died in the hospital. In the U.S. Virgin Islands, the territory's minimum wage saw its final phased increase to $10.50 per hour as part of a bill ratified by the 32nd Legislature and signed into law by Governor Kenneth Mapp. The three-step increase, which saw the hourly wages of Virgin Islands employees going from $7.25 to $8.35 in 2016, then from $8.35 to $9.50 on June 1, 2017, increased to $10.50 on June 1st of this year. Still in our highlights, the Kikemjeni volcano was at the orange level back in March, according to the UE Seismic Research Center. Kikemjeni is an underwater volcano approximately 8 kilometers north of Grenada in the eastern Caribbean. Alert level orange means that an eruption may begin with less than 24 hours notice. The last recorded eruption of Kikemjeni was on April 29, 2017. More news from Jamaica. Earlier this year, Prime Minister Andrew Holness declared a state of public emergency in the St. Catherine North Police Division. Holness made the declaration during a press conference at Jamaica House, citing rampant criminality and lawlessness in the division. He said there would have been special focus in Spanish Town, Linstead and Bogwalk, where there has been a spike in murders. Out of the British Virgin Islands, Premier and Minister of Finance Dr. D. Orlando Smith said no new taxes would have been included in the 2018-2019 fiscal budget. The Premier made his budget address in the House of Assembly on Monday, March 19th. He said this year's budget would have focused on support for local law enforcement to help tackle the recent upsurge in serious crime. More news from Trinidad. Police made a multi-million-dollar drug, firearm and ammunition bust earlier in July at an apartment in an upscale residential area and arrested 5 people. According to media reports, intelligence had revealed that there was a Venezuelan-Mexican drug cartel link to the seizure, which was valued at approximately 50 million Trinidad and Tobago currency, which is also equal to US $2.2 million. In Guyana, President David Granger was in Cuba earlier in November for a second round of chemotherapy to treat his recently diagnosed cancer, revealing that he has several more rounds to go in a treatment schedule that will take him into the middle of next year. The Guyanese leader was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma in the Spanish-speaking nation when he traveled there for a medical investigation on October 30th. He has also reduced his workload and scaled back public engagements when he returned home last month from Cuba. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, a 22-year-old former model was sent back to a mental institution while the magistrate decides on the arguments presented in court on Monday, January 22nd, regarding the court's acceptance of a report from the psychiatric hospital. Yogi Farrell, who was at the mental health center for 2 weeks, was charged with abusive language to the wife of Finance Minister Camila Gonçalves on January 4th. Since her hospitalization, Farrell has made a number of allegations, including that she had been in a relationship with a 44-year-old minister, which ended in 2016. Meantime, Ms. Farrell walked out of court on Monday, December 17th, without that charge hanging over her head. Senior Magistrate Ricky Burnett dismissed the case against the 23-year-old Yogi Farrell for want of prosecution. When she appeared in the Kingstown Magistrates Court, dressed in all black, the court was told that the prosecution was withdrawing the charge against her. More news from Trinidad and Tobago. The country's highest-ranking female politician called for a national response to the issue of women murdered as a result of domestic violence. In a statement commemorating the United Nations International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, opposition leader Kamla Persad-Bissessar said violence against women in the Twin Island Republic remained at unacceptably high levels. Still in our highlights, Scotiabank was closing branches in parts of the Caribbean, entering an agreement with a Trinidad-based leading financial group to take over its banking operations in 9 non-core markets in the region. It was announced on November 27th that, subject to regulatory approvals and customary closing conditions, Republic Financial Holdings Limited RFHL will purchase Scotiabank's banking operations in Antigua and Barbuda, Anguilla, Dominica, Grenada, Guyana, St. Lucia, St. Martin, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, as well as St. Kitts and Nevis, for US $123 million. In Cuba, members of the island's National Assembly gathered for a 2-day session in Havana, which marked the end of a Castro era. President Raul Castro, who took over as Cuba's president from his ailing brother Fidel in 2006, stepped down. Miguel Diaz-Canel was sworn in as Cuba's new president on April 19, 2018. It was the first time since the revolution in 1959, almost 60 years ago, a Castro is not at the helm of the country. Out of St. Lucia, National Security Minister Senator Herman Gill Francis says he was concerned about an applied death threat against him posted on Facebook, said to have been made by a police officer who he said was part of the controversial Operation Restore Confidence that resulted in a number of extrajudicial killings. The alleged threat came just days after Francis apparently came to the belated realization that police officers accused of extrajudicial killings must be prosecuted if the sanctions imposed on the island's security forces by the U.S. are to be lifted. As we continue our highlights, here's news from Dominica. On Saturday, November 10th, 4 inches of rain pummeled Dominica, triggering flooding, landslides, and falling rocks across the island. Authorities said the northern and interior parts of the island were more severely affected and the entire town of Portsmouth was flooded. Deputy Prime Minister Reginald Austrie said that the government monitored the effects of the weather on Portsmouth following widespread flooding in the second town recently. And finally, in our highlights, reggae superstar Buju Banton is back in Jamaica after spending almost 8 years behind bars in the United States on cocaine charges. Photos circulating on social media showed airport employees taking photos of and with the Grammy-winning artist, who already has several performances lined up. Buju, whose real name is Mark Anthony Myrie, was found guilty of intent to deal more than 5 kilograms of cocaine and given a mandatory 10-year sentence in February 2011. And that brings us to the end of our regional news highlights. When we come back, we will present to you the international highlights.
Welcome to our highlights in international news for 2018. Here are some of the crowning moments. First, Mr. Vladimir Putin will lead Russia for another 6 years after he secured an expected victory in the presidential election held in March. Mr. Putin, who has ruled the country as either president or prime minister since 1999, got more than 76% of the votes, official results show. The main opposition leader, Alexei Navalny, was barred from the race. Addressing a rally in Moscow, Mr. Putin said voters had recognized the achievements of the last few years. Meanwhile, just below 1,000 persons were missing when the California wildfires occurred. The number of people unaccounted for in the deadly campfire in Northern California skyrocketed to more than 1,200 before falling again to just below 1,000. The sudden drop led to some confusion among locals and officials alike. The confirmed death toll was over 90, which is a state record. The fire began on Thursday, November 8th. In managing to escape the fires, many have reported having only minutes to gather their loved ones to try and escape through congested roads. In other news, Michael Cohen, the former lawyer to Donald Trump, who once said he'll take a bullet for the president, has been given a 36-month prison sentence. He is the first member of Mr. Trump's inner circle to be jailed over the special counsel inquiry into alleged Russian meddling in the 2016 election. He has pleaded guilty to crimes including campaign finance violations, tax evasion, and lying to Congress. In a New York court, Cohen lashed out at his former boss. The 52-year-old told the judge that Mr. Trump caused him to follow a path of darkness rather than light. In related news, U.S. President Donald Trump has said he never directed his former private lawyer to break the law a day after he was sentenced to prison. His comments came a day after Cohen received a 3-year jail sentence for campaign finance and fraud crimes. Cohen had blamed Mr. Trump's influence and dirty deeds at his sentencing. In a series of tweets, Mr. Trump also insisted that he did nothing wrong in regards to campaign finance laws. He said Cohen probably was not guilty of those campaign violations, but pleaded guilty to benefit himself. However, Cohen insisted that Mr. Trump knew making hush money payments during the 2016 presidential campaign was wrong. Speaking after he was sentenced to prison after campaign finance and fraud crimes, Michael Cohen told ABC News he directed me to make the payments. Here is Mr. Cohen.
I know the truth. Others know the truth. And here is the truth. The people of the United States of America, the people of the world, don't believe what he's saying. The man doesn't tell the truth. And it's sad that I should take responsibility for his dirty deeds.
Still in international highlights, a suspect package similar to those sent to CNN and senior Democrats has been sent to a New York restaurant owned by the actor Robert De Niro, U.S. media say. The device arrived at the Tribeca Grill in Manhattan, U.S. media said. Former Vice President Joe Biden has also reportedly received packages.
New York police were first alerted in the early hours of this morning. A suspicious package had been delivered to Robert De Niro's Lower Manhattan office. Television pictures showed the device being transported in a specialized containment truck to a police facility in the Bronx. Like most of the 7 previous recipients of suspected bombs, Robert De Niro is an outspoken critic of President Donald Trump. None of the devices have so far detonated, but a nationwide hunt is now on for a serial bomber. A short time ago, Mr. Trump seemed once again to blame what he called fake news.
Elsewhere, journalist Jamal Khashoggi's murder was premeditated. Saudi Arabia's public prosecutor has been quoted as saying by Saudi state media. The evidence for this came from a joint Saudi-Turkish task force. It also reported that prosecutors were questioning suspects as a result of the joint investigation. Saudi Arabia had initially denied all knowledge of the writer's whereabouts when he went missing on October 2nd.
There have been long leaked details from these audio recordings that were said to exist. Very lurid details indeed, suggesting that on the recordings you can hear the altercations with Jamal Khashoggi, you can hear screams from inside the Consul General's office, the torturing of him, the dismemberment of the body. There was speculation for some days as to whether they really existed or whether this was a way of the Turks simply having leverage over the Saudis by claiming they existed, but it does seem indeed that they exist, and if they reports are to be believed, they've been handed over to Gina Haspel. Gina Haspel will brief the White House following her return from Turkey.
Meanwhile, Kenyans reacted furiously to news that 20 members of parliament traveled to watch the World Cup at the taxpayers' expense. Many Kenyans thought the trip was a waste of money in a country where the average person lives on $150 a month. Here is more in this report.
The MPs caught the attention of Kenyans when they posted selfie photos in a Russian World Cup stadium. They are in Russia for 2 weeks with standard daily allowances for expenses of around $1,000 each. Conservative estimates for the whole trip puts the cost for flights, hotels, tickets and expenses at tens of thousands of dollars. Sports Minister Rashid Echesa told the BBC he had authorized only 6 MPs to travel for the tour, the aim of which is for Kenya to learn how to organize such big events. But furious Kenyans on social media are questioning the wisdom behind such use of public funds.
U.S. President Donald Trump says Russia should be attending a summit of the G7 group of key industrialized nations. Russia was expelled in 2014 following its annexation of Crimea, but Mr. Trump said he wanted them there. The build-up to the meeting has been marred by clashes between the U.S. president and other nations after his imposition of trade tariffs. The summit, which groups Canada, the U.S., the UK, France, Italy, Japan and Germany, is being held at La Malbaie in Canada.
We've seen this organisation split before. The Russians were kicked out after the annexation of Ukraine in 2014. Now, America has been at the centre of the G7 ever since its creation. It is the centre at which everything else revolves in terms of its economic power. But these other countries, the EU countries and Canada in particular, they're furious about these tariffs and they believe it threatens the international order, the rules-based nature of international trade, and they're going to make sure that it's absolutely clear to Donald Trump.
In other news, U.S. President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un met face-to-face for their highly anticipated summit. After hours of talks, the U.S. president said he was heading toward a signing with Kim, but there was no immediate indication of what sort of agreement would be signed. The summit began with the two men briefly shaking hands and taking a photo side by side. Meantime, Robert Bosworth, the alleged gunman accused of killing 11 Jewish worshippers at a Pittsburgh synagogue on Saturday, has pleaded not guilty. Mr. Bowers, 46, has requested a jury trial. He faces 44 counts of murder, hate crimes, obstructing religious practices and other crimes. Prosecutors are seeking the death penalty. Here is more in this report.
Robert Bowers appeared defiant as he appeared in court for a second time, accused of killing 11 Jewish worshippers at the Tree of Life synagogue last Saturday. Speaking only to acknowledge he understood the charges and that some could carry the death penalty, he entered a not guilty plea. The attack is believed to be the worst act of anti-Semitic violence in US history and has sparked a nationwide debate over inflammatory political language, with some accusing the president of stoking anger among white nationalists.
In more international highlights, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry got married on May 19, 2018. However, her father did not attend her wedding to Prince Harry. It was reported that he had to undergo heart surgery. Miss Markle's estranged half-sister Samantha said he had faced unbelievable stress. She also became the Duchess of Sussex on her marriage to Prince Harry. President Donald Trump nominated William Barr to the new Attorney General, a post he held in the 1990s under President George H.W. Bush. By replacing Jeff Sessions, who was fired by Mr. Trump, the 68-year-old will take charge of the investigations into alleged Russian meddling in the 2016 U.S. election. More in this report.
William Barr comes with some pedigree, as he's already served as U.S. Attorney General previously under George H.W. Bush in the early 90s. However, Democrats will have some concerns over his comments backing the dismissal of the FBI Director James Comey last year, and newspaper articles in which he suggested that the Clintons should have faced more investigation. As far as Heather Nauert goes, her background as a Fox News anchor and her assured performance as State Department spokeswoman have clearly drawn the president's attention. But there will be questions over her lack of direct diplomatic experience.
Finally, the U.S. President Donald Trump has said that the partial shutdown of the federal government will last until his demands for funds to build a wall on the Mexico border is met. On Christmas Day, he described some of the migrants trying to reach the U.S. as very bad and said a barrier was important.
I can tell you it's not going to be open until we have a wall, a fence, whatever they'd like to call it. I'll call it whatever they want. But it's all the same thing. It's a barrier from people pouring into our company, into our country from drugs. It's a barrier from drugs. It's a barrier, you know, there's a problem in this world today. It's called human trafficking. And we're not going to let that take place. We are working so hard to catch these traffickers. They're bad people. We can't do it without a barrier. We can't do it without a wall.
And that brings us to the end of our international news highlights. Stay with us for the major highlights in sports.
It's big, it's large, it's huge. It's the Mega Money Christmas Loan from TDC Financial Services. This holiday season, get $25,000 unsecured and a chance to win mega prizes. Win a mega 49-inch curved TV, deferred payment, gift cards, ham, turkey, and more mega prizes. Make your holiday mega with the Mega Money Christmas Loan from TDC Financial Services. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back, and here are the highlights in sports for 2018. First, in football, FIFA World Cup winners France were welcomed home as champions by hundreds of thousands of supporters on Monday, 16th July. France beat Croatia 4-2 in the final in Moscow on Sunday, 15th July to win the tournament for the second time in 20 years. France's history also marked the fourth consecutive title won by a European team. Croatia took second place, Belgium third place, and England fourth. Still in football, 8-time Olympic champion Usain Bolt was in talks for a trial to play football in Australia, a club says. The Jamaican, a former sprinter, 31, negotiated a 6-week stint with the Central Coast Mariners, a team in the country's A-League competition. Mariners chief executive Sean Samilikamp said the club had spent 4 months pursuing Bolt, and a season-long deal could follow. Football agent Tony Rallis said a deal had been agreed in principle. Mr. Rallis, who has been involved in the deal, said the negotiations continued over Bolt's pay. It is understood that the multi-million-dollar deal had been proposed. Bolt had previously trained with the clubs in Germany, Norway, and South Africa. Meantime, 5-time Ballon d'Or Cristiano Ronaldo joined Juventus for £99.2 million in July. The former Real Madrid and Manchester United player has scored 85 goals in 154 games for his country and won Euro 2016. Elsewhere, 33-year-old Ronaldo denied an allegation that he raped Catherine Mayorga in 2009 in Las Vegas. Ronaldo said he was calm over any and all allegations, as he had a clear conscience over the allegation. The Portugal captain missed Juventus' Champions League win against the Young Boys through suspension. That's it for football. Now on to basketball. The Golden State Warriors won their third NBA title in 4 seasons with a comprehensive 4-0 series victory over the Cleveland Cavaliers. Coach Steve Kerr described the triumph as the hardest so far, but his Warriors side routed the Cavs 108-85 to prevail in the 4th consecutive finals meeting between the teams. Steph Curry scored 37 points for the Warriors, while LeBron James claimed 23. James, who played in his 8th consecutive finals, said he had no idea at that point about his future and would consider the decision with his family. In related news, the Cavs manager general Kobe Altman has held talks with LeBron James and his agent Rich Paul to convince the athlete to stay with the Cavs. At the time, James was an unrestricted free agent, and the Cavs were hoping to re-sign the 3-time champion, who is weighing whether to change teams for the 3rd time in 8 years. James, who was also being pursued by the Los Angeles Lakers, who have had a salary cap space to sign him and another star player. However, back in July, LeBron James officially joined the Los Angeles LA Lakers in a 4-year deal worth $154 million, with Magic Johnson calling it a huge step for the team. James, 33, was a free agent after leaving the Cleveland Cavaliers. The 3-time NBA champion with Cleveland and Miami Heat joins a team that last made the playoffs in 2013. James also announced that he has agreed to a 4-year deal with the Lakers to try to dethrone the Golden State Warriors and to grow his own legacy. Meantime, LeBron James became the 5th highest point scorer in NBA history, passing Wilt Chamberlain. The 33-year-old beat Chamberlain's record, 31,419 points, with a free throw late in the 4th quarter. James now has 31,425 career points, scored a season-high 44 points. And that's it for basketball. In cricket, Bangladesh completed a series sweep against the West Indies in 2-test T20 series and defeated the West Indies within 3 days. In the wake of this, Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports of Jamaica, Olivia Grange, likened West Indies cricket to an element of culture heritage that is in danger and is in need of protection. Meantime, Shai Hope walloped the 3rd fastest T20 International 50 to help West Indies overpower Bangladesh by 8 wickets in Sylhet. The hosts were undone by Shelton Cottrell's awkward short balls to be bowled out for 129, and then a bumper crowd sat in silence as Hope battered 6 sixes and 3 fours to end the contest in a hurry. Still in cricket, India thrashed West Indies by 9 wickets after bowling the tourists out for 104 to complete a 3-1 one-day series victory. The tourists were dismissed in 31.5 overs. Captain Jason Holder top scoring with 25. And in mini Olympics, joint champions, that's what it came down to at the Nevis Athletic Stadium, or the Mondo Track, following the final event of the 2018 Gulf Insurance Primary School Athletics Championships on Wednesday, 25th March. After 56 events, the Georgetown Lambert Primary School and the Charleston Primary School finished on 181 points to be named joint champions, the first at the new Mondo Track. However, according to a release from the Education Ministry here in Nevis, after a careful review, the Charleston Primary School was declared the winner with 185 points. And that's the latest in sports. The latest in your weather comes up next. And your weather forecast for tonight: partly cloudy with a 30% or low chance of showers. Tomorrow, cloudy during the morning with a 60% or moderate chance of showers, and partly cloudy during the afternoon with a 30% or low chance of showers. The winds are east-northeast at 22 to 33 kilometers per hour, or 12 to 18 knots. Seas 2.1 meters or 7 feet. A small craft advisory is in effect, and sea bathers should exercise caution against the high surfs produced by swells breaking on the island's shores. Your sunrise for tomorrow will be at 6:40 a.m. And that's how we wrap up the major news package for today, Monday, 31st December 2018. On behalf of the rest of the news team, the management and staff of Von Radio, I am Marvin Ross, and we are wishing you a pleasant evening and a bright and prosperous new year to all when it comes, and we look forward to providing you with quality service and programming in the new year.